Welcome to Week 6 of the NFL, and we have a special show this week that's going to highlight all the important news and the waiver wire picks to help you and your fantasy team, and it's all coming up next. Hello everyone, I'm Gary Kurtzman.
And I'm Eric Lee, and we are the Fantasy Football Consultants. Gary, I just have to start off with this. I love the NFL. Week 5 of the NFL was yet another crazy week. More overtime games.
Oh, yeah.
63-yard field goal as time expires to win it. That's why we're all here. We love the NFL. And to me, it's just a much better product than the Major League Baseball and the NBA. And I think it's because every game means so much.
Absolutely. Not only means so much to fantasy viewers, but did you hear how many tens of millions of dollars were hanging on that Graham Gano kick? That one 63-yard kick had over $50 million switching hands in the last second. And don't you wish they could have just moved it back 1 yard to set the record? Tied the record, longest field goal to tie or take the lead in an NFL game. 1 more yard could have set the record. Man, that was awesome.
You can go to YouTube and just type in Carolina Panthers game-winning kick, and you see people in bars just going nuts. Just the astonishment of Odell Beckham Jr. and Eli Manning.
Throwing touchdown passes.
But yeah, when that kick went in, they couldn't believe it. But anyway, another great. We're going to get you ready for Week 6. We want to welcome those. If this is the first time you've watched the Fantasy Football Consultants, welcome. We like to have fun here, but we also like to build a community. We want to hear from you. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit the red subscriber button and the bell icon so you're notified of all our content. Most of the shows will come out on Wednesday and Thursday for the week, but we wanted to have a special one this Monday so we can talk about the latest news that just happened on Sunday, as well as what we think are some great waiver wire picks and set you up for some rest of the season rankings, which you can really distinguish yourself in your league. That's coming up a little bit later, but right now, let's talk about the news. Matt Breida. So I have Matt Breida in my league, and you know, what goes around comes around. I was able to pick him up because Jerick McKinnon got injured.
Good word giveth, good word taketh away.
Feels like I had a windfall, but you know, he's had his share of injuries himself, and just this past Sunday, he injured his left ankle, left the game, and never came back. He was spotted afterwards in a walking boot. The good news is X-rays are negative, and he is day-to-day or potentially week-to-week. I think it is worth it, if you have a roster spot, to take a flyer and pick up Alfred Morris. It's interesting, Gary, Alfred Morris is only selected in 42% of the Yahoo leagues. That means 58% of the leagues he's available. It's a premium to get a guy who's going to get most of the carries and will be a goal line back on a team, the Niners, who will still put up points.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Well, dislocated ankles typically take 2 to 3 weeks so I understand that they're listing him as day-to-day, but on crutches in a walking boot, dislocated ankle, he will not play this coming weekend. It doesn't make any sense. For at least one game, and quite possibly 2 or even 3 at the absolute outset, you're going to have Alfred Morris be one of the only guys in town. Yeah, they have Rasheed Mostert, but honestly, the fact that he's gotten, I think it's 3, maybe it's 4 carries all year long tells you something. Meanwhile, Alfred Morris gets 7 to 10 per game, and that's when Breida plays. They trust him. Shanahan's got experience in Washington with him. He's even catching 2 or 3 balls per game, so he has that facet. That's obviously not where his area of expertise is, but it's not Mostert's either. So this guy should be the 3-down back, the goal line back. Even if you only have him for 1 or 2 games, that is worth a roster spot.
And 1 or 2 games when you're having buys in the NFL. So you're going to need help in your rosters.
Another guy who is going to be a short-term rental, but may have some longer-term implications too, and this name rolls off the tongue, folks, Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
I am shocked and chagrined, mortified, stupefied.
Who is that, Gary?
Yeah, who is that? Okay, I won't go into the history of Marquez Valdez-Scantling other than to say walk-on in college, nearly a walk-on in the NFL. Not going to generate a whole lot of buzz, except the fact that the guy's actually really good. I mean, people said the same thing about Adam Thielen, and now he's a Pro Bowl receiver 2 times over. Look, here's the deal. They got Devontae Adams, they got Randall Cobb, they got Geronimo Allison, and within the last 2 weeks, all 3 of those guys have been injured. 2 of them didn't play last game. Randall Cobb likely won't play the next game. Allison may or may not come back. Concussions are very tricky to prognosticate. But look, here's the deal. If you are on the top 3 receiver tree for Aaron Rodgers, it is a very good thing for you. He was number 2 on the tree this week, and all he did was get 10 targets, 7 receptions, 68 yards and a touchdown, and 1 yard away from 2 touchdowns. Look, this guy is good. He performs. More importantly, Aaron Rodgers trusts him. Without Randall Cobb, he's still going to get his targets. And if you hate to talk about an injury this way, but if you're lucky enough as a Valdez-Scantling owner to not have Geronimo Allison play next weekend too, which is a possibility, you're looking at another 10-7. Anywhere from 50 to 100 yards and a possible touchdown. And even if it's a 1-game rental, not going to cost you much money. He's only owned in 9% of the leagues out there, folks. He's available for a cheap price. I would jump on him.
I tell you, I don't get no respect.
9% of the leagues?
9% of the leagues.
I really do like that pick. You just want to make sure you follow the news and see the status of the other wide receivers on Green Bay. The guy you don't need to determine the status of because he's 100% going to play, but only owned in 18% of the leagues, is Jameis Winston. Folks.
Yeah, that's a head scratcher.
Yeah, well, I think people got caught up with Fitzmagic and thinking that he was gonna take over, but there's really no excuse because he has been named the starter for the last week. And as we enter close to buys, as we consider, we have him, I'll give you a little spoiler alert in our rest of the season rankings, we have him as QB 13 for the rest of the year. So if you're in a larger league, or more importantly, if you even have a quarterback that might have ups and downs depending on matchups and things, Jameis Winston should be rostered on your team. Before the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went on their bye, they had the #1 passing offense in the NFL, Gary.
Yeah.
And led by Ryan Fitzpatrick. But I argue that Winston is better. It's not just my opinion, it's Tampa Bay's opinion.
Yeah.
And fantasy-wise, he's going to help you with his legs.
No, here's the deal. On a per-game basis, he was a top 10 quarterback last year. And people were saying that he had a down year. Now, he inherits three top 20 fantasy receivers in Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans, and a top 5 tight end when healthy, O.J. Howard. Look, Fitzpatrick was a system quarterback. Jameis Winston is inheriting the same system with the same receivers, and he's got better talent. Bottom line is this. I understand that Fitzpatrick was better at throwing the long ball. But man, you talk to Mike Evans, you talk to Chris Godwin, they are the top 2 receivers in the system anyway, and they both benefit, as does O.J. Howard from Winston versus Fitzpatrick. This is going to be a plus for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cannot believe he's owned in so few leagues, Eric. That's a great pickup. Another person, 100% likely to be the only guy in town, and probably the only guy in town for the rest of the year, and that's C.J. Uzomah. And usually, when you talk about C.J. Uzomah, that's not the soundbite that's the soundbite I was going for, ladies and gentlemen. Crickets. Rightfully so. Tyler Eifert, right? He's out for the year. Everybody knows that. Here's the thing. Croft is injured too. They literally only have 1 tight end rostered, and that's Uzomah. And this is a team that uses tight ends. Granted, I will grant you in this past game, Uzomah did not get much looks, and he wasn't projected to because of the opposition and their defensive strategy. The 3 teams that the Cincinnati Bengals face in the next 3 weeks, Pittsburgh Steelers, Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are not only 3 of the worst pass defenses in the league, but they allow each and every one of them top 5 yardage to the tight end position. And that's who Uzomah is going to face in the next 3 weeks, while Croft rehabilitates, and of course Eifert's out for the year. And by the way, Uzomah passed Croft on the depth chart anyway. So there's no reason to believe that he won't be the tight end, not only for the next 3 weeks, but for the entire year. Bear in mind one other thing. second most touchdowns to the tight end position over the last 2 years belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals. This feels like a great opportunity. Oh, and by the way, he's only rostered in 26% of the leagues.
So I'm going to pick a couple of players here, my last two players I wanted to talk about and pick up, who are granted that who are owned in most leagues. Evan Engram is owned in 71% of the leagues. But that means 29% of the leagues. I'm not sure what they're doing out there. I guess when he got hurt, they gave up on him. But look, this guy is no doubt about it, top 10 tight end when healthy. And he should come back next week. And if he doesn't, he'll definitely come back the following week. I've talked about it in other videos. This guy is a tight end in wide receiver clothing. He lines up a lot in the slot, and I really like his role on this New York Giants team. You're not going to have situations, which you have in a lot of tight ends that are that low, of getting like a one catch, 7-yard game. It's just not going to happen with Evan Engram. Very high floor.
Absolutely. 7-8 looks per game. And when he wasn't there, Sterling Shepard gets 7-8 looks per game. They value that position tremendously. And when he comes back, it's all his. And in what has been a wasteland for the tight end position this year, that guy is top 5 tight end and very valuable. Another guy who has a surprising amount of value, I'll talk about why in a second, Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson, by the way, is only 34% owned, which means 2 out of every 3 leagues don't have any Robbie Anderson ownership. And I kind of get why. Because over the first 2 weeks, he had a 10% share of Josh Allen's passes, right? Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam Darnold's passes.
Thought he was traded for him.
Went up to 15% by week 3. Guess where it was by week 5? 24%. It's climbing. Why should you care? Because he had 30% share of the passes last year. Last year, that man, Robbie Anderson, was a top 20 wide receiver fantasy-wise for the year. He is trending very close to that this year. I grant that he started slowly, but he's now at 24% share. He's sniffing 30%. And if he gets there, with the opportunities that he has, at anywhere from 7 to 9 targets, actually he got 10 targets last game, right? Typically projections 7 to 9 targets, 6 catches, 85 yards, and with his red zone looks, 7 to 8 touchdowns. That's what he's projected at for the rest of this year. That's actually even less than what he accomplished last year. And this guy is only owned in 34% of the leagues. Well worth a flyer. Not going to make Quincy Enunwa's owners happy. But Robbie Anderson may very well be becoming the #1 tight end or #1 receiver for the New York Jets.
All right, we had 8 total waiver wire pickups. I'm going to wrap up number 7 and 8. Look. He's probably not. These guys are not probably available in your league, but I just want to put them out there just in case. We got Isaiah Correll, owned by 77% of your leagues. The New York Jets running back,
currently top 10 fantasy points in all of football, by the way.
And we have wide receiver of the Ravens, John Brown, who's become their #1 wide receiver, surpassing Michael Crabtree. Let's be clear, ladies and gentlemen. If these guys are available in your league, A, get a more competitive league, but B, get out there and grab them. Maybe it's a 2 or 4 person team league with these guys in, but if they're still available. We need to quickly talk about the fact, Gary, we have rest of the season rankings are now out.
Yeah, absolutely. So 5 games have surpassed in the NFL, and statistically speaking, that's enough data to start meaningfully forecasting the rest of the season rankings. And those rest of the season rankings, in a lot of cases, are very different from what the pre-draft rankings were. So it's so important, Eric, to be able to benefit from seeing what the rest of the season rankings are from fantasyfootballconsultants.net.
So, to learn more about how to get those rankings, just click on the video below where we get into great depth our rest of the season rankings, give you a peek and tell you exactly where to go. It's also, the link will be in the description. Also, we're going to be doing some drafts, and once they are done in that video, it'll be down there below as well. But until then, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.